So let's take a look at looking at an option on the Japanese yen. And so the setup is that, you're expecting that the US dollar will become stronger against the Japanese yen. In other words, that the yen is going to weaken or depreciate against the US dollar. And so the first question you would encounter in that case is whether you should buy a put or a call on the Japanese yen to take advantage of that. And the answer is that you're going to want to buy a put, because a put bets on the price of something falling, or rather we should say weakening. We're betting on the Japanese yen depreciating, and so we want to buy a put on the Japanese yen to take advantage of that. And then we have two more questions to answer as part of this problem. The second is going to be, what's the break-even price on the option purchased? Sort of like, what does the Japanese yen need to go to for us to at least make our money back on this put option? And then the third question is this: what's your profit or loss, both gross as well as net profit, if the spot rate at the end of 90 days ends up at 140 yen to the dollar? So to answer these two questions, we're going to need some starting parameters, some assumptions. And these are as follows. We've got a starting spot rate, a current exchange rate of the Japanese yen to the dollar of 120 yen for every dollar. And if you want that in dollars per yen, take 1 divided by that number, and we get something pretty small, 0.00833. Since our expectation is, or what we're looking at is what's going to happen to the Japanese yen over the next 90 days, then let's buy a 90-day put option. The maturity of our option, the length of time that this option is going to be in existence is 90 days. We could buy something longer, but for simplicity, we're just going to go with 90 days. And our expectation, this is just what we're kind of speculating on, is that the Japanese yen is going to end up in 90 days at 140 yen for every dollar. And if we want to convert that into dollars per yen, by the same 1 over x type approach, we get 0.00714. All right, with the assumptions out of the way, we can now do some calculations. And then the first is going to be to answer question 2, what is the break-even price on this put option? And for that, we can use, I guess you could call it a formula. It's just the break-even price is going to be equal to the strike price minus the premium. Now, this is for a put, and you'll just have to remember that the break-even price for a call is going to be the strike price plus the premium. But because we're looking at a put here, it's minus. And so we can plug in the numbers here that we've got for the strike price and the premium to get our answer. For the strike price on this put, we're looking at 128 yen to the dollar. And for the premium, it's very small, 0.00004 cents for every yen. So we can almost take these two numbers here and just plug them in. The one thing is that this here is in kind of like yen per dollars, and then this is in dollars per yen. So we just have to make them consistent. This formula is really kind of built for dollars per yen. So what we're going to do to make them consistent is to convert this one by taking 1 divided by that number, and then that'll give us dollars per yen. And that's going to give us a strike price in dollar terms of 0.00781 dollars per yen. So with that, we can just plug in these two numbers and we get a break-even price of $0.00777 per yen. And so we can kind of check that this just makes sense directionally by taking a look at, okay, the current spot rate right now in dollars per yen is 0.0083. 1 yen buys 0.008 cents. And if we're correct that the yen is going to depreciate, then 1 yen is going to be buying fewer cents. It's going to be a weaker yen. And that's the case that we see here. In 0.0077, the yen is buying fewer cents, fewer dollars, and that's what we wanted. We bought a put on the yen. So that's why we're, kind of in a good position here if the price of the yen ultimately falls to this amount. But this amount, if the price falls to this amount, it's falling just enough to cover basically the cost of our premium. For us to make a profit, beyond our break even, the spot rate needs to drop below the break even price. And that kind of brings us to question 3. What is your profit or loss? In this case, it's a profit. Gross or net, if the spot rate at the end of 90 days is 140 yen to the dollar. And you ask maybe, how do I know if it's a profit right up front? And my answer would be, if you look at the current spot rate right now, it's at 120 yen to the dollar. If it goes to 140, that's a weaker yen. And so this position is profiting because we bought a put option on the Japanese yen. Now, it also needs to go above our strike price, but if you recall in yen terms, that was 128 yen to the dollar. Sorry, it needs to go, yes, above the strike price. So if it's at 120 now, as long as it goes above 128, less the cost of our premium, which is pretty small, then this put option will be profitable. The fact that it's going well above that to 140 just tells us that our profit is going to be that much more. So let's take a look specifically at the gross and the net. The gross not including the cost of the premium, the net including the cost of the premium. To calculate the gross profit, and again, this is going to be just for a put option. If it's for a call, we need to reverse the things that, the position of the things we've got here. But for a put option, the gross profit is going to be the strike in dollars per yen minus the ending spot rate, where the spot rate eventually ends up at the end of 90 days. With that also being in terms of dollars per yen. So the USD is going to be in the numerator here. That's going to be our gross profit. And to figure that out, we can again take the strike price here, plug it in dollar terms, and our sort of expected ending spot rate of 140. Our strike is going to be that 0.007, so that's in dollar terms. And then our ending spot rate of 140, we need to put that into dollar terms, which we did when we set out these assumptions here. We took 1 divided by 140 and then got this number, the 0.00714. With those two in, that leaves us a gross profit of 0.0067 dollars per yen. So that's how much money we made on this option in gross terms. It sounds like a very small amount, but just recall that when we trade options, one option comes with a whole bunch of currency attached to it. So we take that number that we get here, multiply it by the notional, or sometimes called the multiplier, especially when we're looking at futures, to get our actual, dollar profit for the entire option position. We don't have a multiplier or notional here in this problem example, but I just wanted to illustrate that although this per unit currency gross profit is small, overall for the option position itself, it could be quite large. So when you do trade options, be aware of the potential gain or loss, and actually, especially futures, because sometimes you'll see it quoted on an individual unit basis, and what you really care about for your own account is going to be that total amount, with the multiplier attached. But then the final thing for this problem is to look at the net profit of this position. And for that, all we have to do is basically take our gross, which is above here. This is our gross, and subtract out the premium. Making sure, again, that both of these are in dollars per yen terms. We just have to be consistent. Our gross profit was already in dollars per yen. And so the premium, conveniently here, it's also in terms of dollars per yen. And so we can directly slide that into our formula. And that's going to look like this, giving us a net profit of 0.00063. And so you can see the difference between the gross and the net here is that 0.00004 being subtracted out. And that's it.